They really don't. And unfortunately, there are a lot of Christian women who come in the church who have this mindset. In case you didn't notice, this woman has tattoos as well. Gentlemen, tattoos are a physical manifestation of internal trauma. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared podcast. I'm your host, Austin Creed, and my friends. Today, I would like to present to you a question. That question is this: should young Christian women be married? Should young Christian men be married? Now, immediately, a lot of people, especially if you're more conservative, you're going to immediately say yes. You're going to say, well, of course, Austin, this is the solution. This is obviously what should be happening. But you know what? I'm not convinced that that's 100% the answer that would work. Now, we need to immediately separate the ideal from the real. Ideally, the answer would be yes. But let's more look at the reality. I don't deal with ideology on this show because it's just too easy. Anybody can read the Bible, they can listen to a pastor, they can listen to a podcast, they can read a commentary, and they can easily get this, well, this is how it should be, this is how it ought to be, if only people did X, Y, or Z, the world would be better. No, I don't deal with that over here. We deal in realism. We deal in real issues, real problems, and then we tie the spiritual into it because then we have a complete solution. That's like coming up with an idea for something, having all the blueprints and everything figured out, but you have no materials, you have nobody who can physically do it, you have no expertise, you have no knowledge of how to actually put this concoction into the real world. Take it out of your brain and put it into the real world. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to explore this idea. We're going to really identify, if your answer is yes, how would you have people actually practice this? Because a lot of young men don't have the opportunities that the boomers had, the silent generation had. The economy is very different. Hypergamy is on steroids because of social media, because of the dramatic womanist movements we've had, and how women are being propped up while men are being dragged down. All these things, for a lot of us, is common knowledge. For some of us, we've never heard this before. And if that's you, well, then you're in for a very rough awakening. I understand that a lot of us, we come across as realities more as during a suppository. We don't take it like our daily vitamins. It's usually more of a suppository. So, for those of us who are not completely in the know, you think that because you go to church, or you go to a Bible study, or you read the Bible, that all of a sudden you're immune to these things. Unfortunately, the statistics do not favor you, number one. And number two, even if that is the truth at this moment, the government is the head of the church at the moment. And then guess what? No-fault divorce probably exists in your state, which means it's probably going to be there. And that means that God is not going to be present in your divorce court. And in your divorce, in your settlement, and in your child support and everything else. So without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to look and explore this. So this is a video about a woman who talks about waiting for marriage. She's encouraging other women to do it from the looks of it. Let's see what she got to say. And because, gentlemen, when we come down to this question, before we jump into this video, when we top this conversation, we need to understand that there's no such thing as good women and bad women. We as men, we like to have this idea of separating people into groups because it makes it easier for us to identify, to understand, and to make it so we feel better. But the problem is people are complex creatures, and a lot of people live on a spectrum. They live on a, I feel this way this day, I do this. Over here on tomorrow, I might do that. In the past, I did this. In the future, I might do that. People are not really simple. Now, some people might have simple tendencies, but a lot of people live on a constant swinging. You ever see those like Newton's cradles where the magnets swing back and forth and they knock like that? Yeah, a lot of people's mindsets are like that. Well, they swing all over the place. Their hormones, their biochemistry is all over the place. So people are not simple. We like to make it out that way because it makes it easier for us to just write immediately and have it be simple. I'm all for having a simple worldview so that you don't have to waste your time and your energy making things overcomplicated. I'm just going to tell you that people, if you really want to understand them, are not simple like that. Now, let's get into this video. I encourage you to leave your thoughts and your comments because I love to read them. And a lot of men, especially married men or young men, old men of all shapes, sizes, mindsets, and spiritual orientations, a lot of people don't feel safe talking about their problems, their encounters, their situations. This is a safe space for you. Even if you 100% disagree with me, I'm not going to throw your comment away, unless YouTube might do it if it's too super offensive, but I'm not going to do it. That in mind, let's hop into this and see what she has to say.
This is for the girl that is on the fence about deciding whether or not she wants to save herself for marriage, and she feels like she can't do it, like there's no way she can make that decision, and she doesn't know how she's going to feel loved in a relationship if she doesn't have sex with them. This is for her. Take it from me, I have been in those exact shoes. I had sex before marriage with all of my previous boyfriends, hookups. I was doing all of it. And now I'm in a relationship where we are saving ourselves for marriage. And trust me, it's not easy whatsoever.
I'm going to pause her because this video is over 2 minutes long, so I can't have it play completely from start to finish. Let's immediately address what she just said. I appreciate her honesty to an extent. I'm sure she's not telling 100% the truth because most people don't. Immediately out the gate, though, we have an issue. We have a woman discussing that she gave herself to Chad, Tyrone, Pookie, previous partners, everything. But now there's a guy who's now going to wait before marriage when other dudes didn't have to. Gentlemen, the reason this is a problem is not from a purity standpoint. It's the first couple men that get with a woman, those men form her worldview of sex, men, relationships, and everything moving forward. Those guys are the imprint for every man that follows. So if you think that a woman can have 5, 10, 50, 100 partners and that's not an issue, stats don't favor you. They really don't. And unfortunately, there are a lot of Christian women who come in the church who have this mindset. In case you didn't notice, this woman has tattoos as well. Gentlemen, tattoos are a physical manifestation of internal trauma. If a woman has tattoos, first of all, it even says in the Torah, you should not have markings on your body, okay? I'm not telling you that if you have tattoos, you can't be a Christian, you can't go to heaven. Look, I'm not telling you that at all. What I am saying is, especially for women, tattoos are a huge red flag. Some of you might disagree with me on this, and that's your business. But it's usually a sign of being damaged, which she literally just admitted to when she discusses, oh, I had sex with men before the guy I'm with now. So, gentlemen, if you want this, these are the kind of women that you're talking about that should be married. Now, it's not about the youth aspect entirely. Is it play a huge factor? Yes. But the other factor is the wall isn't just physical, okay? I know a lot of guys in this space, a lot of men, whether they have cartoon avatars, they show their face like I do, or whatever, they talk about this type of content on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. But a lot of men want to bring up the wall, and they bring up women who are 40, 50, whatever, and they talk about the wall. The wall is not just physical, gentlemen. The wall is also mental. Because if you have a woman who is 25, but she's flown herself to Paris, she's gone to Greece, island hopped in Hawaii, she's had all these different men, been to all these fancy restaurants, done all these things, she's mentally hit the wall because now you as a man have a natural desire to share experiences with these women. Young men, part of our identity as a young man is we want to be like Aladdin. We want to show our girl the world. We want to give it to her. We want to build. We want to become a king and put a crown on both our heads and on our woman's head. But a lot of women don't have the patience for that. That's why a lot of women divorce men in their early 30s. And then the men hit their financial stride late 30s, early 40s. And then the woman sees that man with that girlfriend. And she's like, the girlfriend's getting everything I ever wanted. I wanted to travel. I wanted to do all these things. But now the girlfriend's getting it and not her because she jumped off the boat. Gentlemen, we need to understand that part of the wall is this type of behavior right here. They could look young, but if they're mentally gone, mentally been through the ringer, you can't save people like this. And you shouldn't try because it's a waste of your time. It doesn't work. My friends, we're going to continue with this video in a second, but we really need to drive this point home. Because a lot of men will say, oh, because she's 25, I could still have a good relationship with her. Gentlemen, we need to listen to what people tell us. She's telling you right now, she's a bad investment. This dude who's taking this deal right now is not making a good choice. But let's continue with this video.
It is a very narrow road and it's very hard to walk in purity. But knowing that on my wedding night, I get to give my husband all of me, my heart, my mind, my body and soul as a gift to him.
Ma'am, you've already given that. You just said you've already given those things. See, that's part of the idea that this is why men care about the V card so much. Ma'am, you can't give them that because you've already given that to other men. Your tattoos bear this out. Your soul has already been tarnished. Your body has already been used. It's not that you have zero value on the dating marketplace. It's that now that man is not going to have what he's probably a virgin. Because if he wasn't, he probably wouldn't put up with this behavior, which is a whole nother topic in and of itself. This is one of the biggest problems I have with the Christian church teaching purity, and the women are not following it, but the men are. Because the men are easier to gaslight, lie to. They're easily manipulated through their schmendrick when they have no perspective. They have no discipline sexually because they don't have any experience sexually. Zero. They have no idea about post-nut clarity. They have no idea about developing pre-nut clarity, understanding the difference between sexual selection and mate selection. They have no idea what we're talking about. And that's one of my biggest issues. And that's why guys like Myron Gaines, shout out to Myron and Fresh Prince CEO from Fresh and Fit podcast, they preach about this. I don't 100% agree with them, but this is why guys like them discuss this idea of having 50 bodies before you think about getting married. I'm not telling you to do that. I don't personally think that number is necessary. But the mindset of understanding, wait a minute, do I actually want to build and have a relationship with this woman? Or do I just want to get a nut? That's the question you got to answer yourself. And a lot of men, they don't even know about this distinction. Very important. Well, let's continue with what this woman has to say.
And he gets to give that to me is like the most special thing in the whole world. And I truly never thought that I would get to that point. I genuinely was like, Lord, this is one area of my life that I just cannot surrender to you. Like, there's no way I can do this.
In other words, she wanted to be in these streets, getting stroked, but okay.
And the day that I decided, okay, God, have it all. You have all of me. Make me pure. Make me holy. Was life-changing. There's a few quotes from the book Single, Dating, Engaged, Married by Ben Stewart that I love. The first one is, when you are sleeping with someone before marriage, you are taking away from that person's person if it doesn't work out.
I mean, it didn't seem to affect you very much, but again, where is this conversation before you're in these streets? Before you decide to go out there and have all these experiences, as they like to call them. Where is this conversation at before that? The answer, not interested. It's boring, uninteresting. There's a quote, gentlemen, that I like to share with you that I was told once. You can do anything to a woman but bore her. And a lot of times, the good men are very boring. And this is why we have videos like this. They'll go out in the streets, they'll have fun, and then when they want to break, they'll find a guy like this fiance or whatever that she's talking about now who has no standards, who won't hold her accountable for the bad choices that she's made, and instead will accept it because he's down bad and has no perspective. Let's continue.
And the second one is, I have no right to someone else's body, and they have no right to my body before marriage at all. My body belongs to Christ, and I am a temple.
Oh, again, where was this when you were when you were a virgin? Where was this then? See, this is the problem, guys. They want to make their necessity a virtue now. All of a sudden, they care about these things. Where was this when you were having fun? Where was this when you were in the club? Where was this when you were giving your soul to dudes who didn't care about you? There was nothing then, but now, all of a sudden, oh, now I care about it. Gentlemen, this is why we have to ask this question of, should younger Christian women get married? The answer isn't necessarily because they're young. It's because if they're exhibiting behavior like this and young, well, then it doesn't matter. It does not matter. And a lot of men are falling for this type of manipulation because they don't have the perspective that we have on this show, that I have learned the hard way. You think I grew up learning this? No, I grew up falling for stuff like this. And guess what? I wisened up and I realized that Christian women are just women who are spiritual or religious or whatever. That's it. They're not different on a fundamental biochemistry level. They just feign like they're different. They might act like it here and there. Project it. That's it. That's the only difference.
Or the Holy Spirit. And I want to be as pure as I possibly can be for Jesus.
Again, where was this when you weren't doing... This is the story of Mary Magdalene, gentlemen. The woman who was a complete... Mary Magdalene was a street worker before she met Jesus. And then all of a sudden she transmuted all of her passion for dropping neck to her following Jesus. Now, I'm not telling you that that's bad. That's great. But here's the issue. Now, not only do you want to do that, but now you want to then double dip. You want to pretend like the past didn't happen and that it's not relevant. No, it's still relevant and it still matters, because you don't do something for years and then all of a sudden stop doing it and nothing happens. No backlash. You can't look at people who are on drugs, whether it's alcohol, marijuana, whatever. You think that people can just be addicted to things and then stop it and have no after effects, no withdrawals, nothing? Really? All right, I've had enough of this video. Let's go to the next one, because this is painful, gentlemen. This is just painful. This is what I'm talking about. And that's just the women. Let's talk about society a little bit. Let's look at society. This is the opposition. This is what women are telling other women about getting married young. Let's see what this woman got to say.
I've been a divorce lawyer for 40 years, and here's why it is a bad idea to get married in your teens and your 20s. Who you were at 18 or 20 is not the same person you're going to be at 30. You don't have financial stability. You don't have a career. You don't know where you're going. There's so many question marks, and you haven't developed into who you are. You're just trying to figure things out.
Interesting. So I hear what she's saying, but what she's not telling you is the hypergamy aspect. See, there used to be a time, and I'm not saying we need to go back to these times because it's probably not going to happen outside of an apocalyptic event taking place, but what we don't understand is there was a time when people had to kind of get together. They had to form communities. They had to form marriages to survive. We don't live in that world anymore. Arguably, we do. However, we don't live in a world that's where we don't live in an enforced monogamous culture. There was a time when monogamy was enforced. There wasn't no-fault divorce. You couldn't just say, oh, I'm not interested anymore, and leave. Or the woman wasn't rewarded for leaving because the man usually makes more money. We don't live in that culture anymore. We live in a new era. And divorce lawyers will tell you this. I've met divorce lawyers. I studied law at an undergrad. I might even study and go to law school. I'm thinking about doing that, because this type of stuff is very interesting to me. Divorce lawyers will tell you, if you ask them and they're not liars, they will tell you that men, when they go into divorce court, they're usually like, hey, look, I want to give a fair settlement. I want people to get I want to give her a chance to move on. I want half custody of my kids, all that. Women will usually go in there and say, no, I want this, and the other thing, and I want to leave him with as little as possible. That's usually what happens. But always what happens? No. But is it normally what happens? Yes. So, gentlemen, when we get back to this conversation about should young women be married, ideally speaking, yes, but in reality, it's not as simple as we would like to believe. Now, we're going to go to a next video about a woman who talks about she apparently is married, and she's in her early 20s, and let's hear what she has to say.
OMG, you got married so young. Yeah, I did. I was 22 when I got married, and here's some things people don't tell you, but I'm going to tell you because this account is real talk for the engaged and young married wifeys. Number one is you're going to feel lonely sometimes because some of your old friends are just going to think you don't want to go out with them just because you're married, or that you're too busy or you've changed, which isn't always the case. But your friend circle will probably get smaller.
In other words, you're still gonna feel somewhat of an inkling to go back to the streets. The streets will still call you. Your single friends will still try to influence you.
And that's just life, but your true friends will stick with you. Number 2 is it's okay if you don't know what you're doing because you're growing together. I remember calling my mom like 2 months into marriage and being like, I don't even know what I want to do with my life and how I'm supposed to be a wife, and now I'm supposed to be an adult now. And she just gave me great advice, which is getting married young still allows you to become your own person and discover who you are, but now you are learning and growing together with your person. So you're becoming you, but you also get to see your partner becoming himself.
I hate the term partner. Gentlemen, have you ever heard the term partner? It's a psyops. Partner stems from the Rainbow Rider community. In a traditional sense, the man is the leader, the husband. Partner assumes you are 50-50 equals. No, the man is in charge. The woman is subservient to the man. Not in an abusive way, but that is part of the relationship, is the woman submits to the man. That is how that's supposed to work. So anytime you ever hear this phrase, you know the programming for the womanist movement is in this woman. Let's continue.
Self too, which is exciting and so adorable. I do just want to say that when you're married young, you don't have to have your life figured out yet, and it's really cool that you get to take on life together earlier than a lot of other people do. I've been married a little over a year now, so I definitely don't have it all figured out yet, but I do love a good community of other young married and engaged girls, so please feel free to join the community, especially if you do feel lonely, but no matter...
See, she feels lonely. Guys, set the clock for this woman's marriage.
Oh, hell no!
This is not good. The I'm unhappy is right around the corner. Gentlemen, see, a lot of women, unfortunately, act too much like children with breasts, and a lot of times the men then have to deal with this. I don't mean that to insult you. Unfortunately, it's just becoming more and more apparent the more of these videos you go through, the more you realize that they don't want to take accountability. The men are always the issue. And if they ever take accountability, which is rare, they'll immediately say, oh, but he has more to take than me. And now we're going to get into the elephant in the room, which is the financial aspect of being married young. And they're going to assert here that the American dream is doomed for Gen Z, my generation. Let's see what you got to say.
Can somebody explain to me in crayon eating terms why I make over 3 times the federal minimum wage and I cannot afford to live?
I know he kind of answered the question himself in his own video, but I want to highlight one thing he briefly mentioned and talk about it, which is that the American dream is dead. Yes, the traditional American dream, which is like doing better than your parents and being able to provide a lot for your family, is dead, or at least it's changed.
It's not dead. It just means you're going to have to work harder and do more to get less. You can't have the normie 9 to 5 or the normie existence and do the bare minimum and get ahead. That's what they're leaving out.
Because there are many of us that are well aware that we will never be able to make as much money as our parents did. And I think my mother, who is a boomer and benefited directly from the system in place, said it best when she once said, roughly, that the American dream has changed. It's become very apparent to everyone that in this economy, Gen Z, millennials, and some Gen Xers, many of us will not be able to do better than our parents. We won't even...
Well, because you voted. I guarantee you, this is one of the women who voted for Joe Biden and voted for this stuff. Y'all voted for this, by the way. You think this just happened? No, you voted for this, most likely. So you're reaping what you sow. So I don't know why people are acting like, oh, I can't believe this. Most of my generation is extremely democratic, liberal, communist, socialist, whatever you want to call it. And they voted for this. And then they wonder why, oh, I voted for people to have more, but I thought the people would be me. No, it means all the bums and the losers are going to have more. In other words, the harder you work, the less you get to take home. That's what socialism is. And that's what happens when you vote for people who have socialist policies. It's not a shock.
And be able to do as well as our parents. And now the American dream has become just being able to get by, being able to maybe afford a house at some point, maybe have a kid or two if we're lucky enough to make that much money. And a lot of us, myself included, who has now experienced company like financial related layoffs twice so far in the last 2 years since I've entered the job market. You know, those of us who feel like we're constantly in fight or flight about bills and how we're going to keep making it by, it's making us miserable and feel so hopeless. And yes, I could sit here all day and show you graphs of how like inflation is going up, and while wages are going up, it's just not matching inflation. So it feels like we're all just constantly working, and the goalpost just keeps getting moved further and further away from us.
Again, you voted for this. I don't know what to tell you. You voted for this. This is what happens when you vote for people who come to do good and do very well for the indeed, except for you.
And it's a lot of us extremely stressed and worried and feel like just giving up because we're constantly running a race where the finish line is getting moved further out. And I think it's obvious that we're all just really exhausted by it now. I know I am. I'm constantly hitting a wall with all of this. And a lot of us have to wake up every day blatantly knowing we will never do as well as our parents did. And we just have to try to make it, somewhat close to that. I'm sorry. My dad passed away several years ago on this date.
Please save your sob story.
I'm just thinking about him, and sometimes I feel like he'd be proud of me, but sometimes...
Okay, I'm not listening to the... Gentlemen, anytime an adult woman cries, she's trying to manipulate you. I'm just telling you. I know you're probably going to call me names off of that. I really don't care. It's just, it's a fact of reality. Anytime a woman cries, and she's an adult, and she's trying to get sympathy from you, don't listen to it. Don't listen to it. It's a tactic to try to get something from you or anything like that. Don't fall for it, gentlemen, please. I would encourage you not to. Gentlemen, here's the thing, though. Let's go back to the idealism for 2 seconds, shall we? Ideally, this problem has a very simple solution. All you gotta do is then get married, have 2 people have a dual income household, and then guess what? Bada bing, bada boom, you can make it. But guess what? Hypergamy does not fit with that program. Women will build with a man only if they have no other choice. I mean, let's be real. Gentlemen, if we had an opportunity to either A, work really hard and not have a guarantee that our hard work will pay off, or on the other side, we could, not work as hard and still get everything that we want, or at least we think we can, what are we going to do? It's not that hard to think about, right? Well, the same thing was with women. They could say, yeah, I can find a guy I could build with, or I can look for a guy who already has money, who's already reached that finish line that I'd have to help another guy reach, and I can just hang out over there and hope that that guy gets me instead. And I'm not telling you that women who act hypergamously are bad people. No, that's just how they operate. I'm not going to fault somebody for behaving the way that they're biologically programmed to do. That's just how it works. Now, gentlemen, the part she left out was she could build wealth faster if she actually wanted to get with a man and get married. But the problem is she doesn't want to do that. Why? Because that requires a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice. But when people don't want to sacrifice unless they absolutely have to, and then by that point it's usually too late anyway. So my friends, the question being, should Christian women who are young get married? Ideally, the answer is yes. But the problem is, in reality, we're not going to see that happen, because who are they going to marry? Young dudes they had to build with, who are, they're not going to have to work really hard and suffer and sacrifice and everything like that? Probably not. Some might, but most won't. And then, who are they going to marry? Older men? Maybe they're not attracted to older men. Maybe the older men are already married. So then what? We're gonna put poly in the conversation? That's not going to get legislated. That's not going to happen. So then what solutions do we actually have? The only working solution is the idealistic one that's not going to happen, which is young men and young women get married. They don't divorce. They build wealth. They build communities. They build families. But that's not going to happen. Why? It's not trendy, not popular. People don't want to suffer if they don't have to. The government's been more powerful than ever. And more than anything, young women, they're not being encouraged to build with young men. Older women are telling younger women, oh, don't get married like I did because that was a bad choice. You should go out there and be in these streets and try to find a guy who's already wealthy, and at the very least you can divorce him and take half his stuff if he turns out not to be the guy you want. That's what they're being told. And gentlemen, that's the reality of the world we're living in, whether you're Christian, not Christian, spiritual, atheistic, agnostic, I don't care. No judgment over here. But that's what we're dealing with right now. So gentlemen, let me know what your thoughts are. You disagree? You agree? Let me know. I'd love to hear what you have to say, because everybody has different experiences, and maybe you think I missed something, and I'd love to hear it. Friends, in the meantime, I'd encourage you to try to avoid these pitfalls that we talked about by using your head, not the one below your belt, because at the end of the day, a lot of men make the worst choices when they think with their schmendrick and not with their brain. Take care of yourselves. I'm out of here. Peace.